called the Rape of the Nile. And they tell you all the thousands of things that they pull out of this place. Fabian, the rape of the Nile, if you want to write that down. Anyway, he goes in, and then there's a big rush because they got all this stuff out here, but they don't know what it says and they don't know what it means because nobody can read meta-nature or hieroglyphics. So we get Champollion, comes along, him, and he's from France. There's got another guy, I think he's from England or Germany. And they got this big race on who's going to be the first to translate hieroglyphics or meta-nature. Anyway, it takes Champollion 16 years to do this. And in 1924, he translates the meta-nature and all this, and then you would have the next era where people have to learn it, and then you get the birth of Egyptology, where you have Gerald Massey would be his own Egyptologist. You have people like Budge, you have people like Birch, and Gaston Maspero from France, and all this was to come later. But the key point is Champollion translate these hieroglyphics. As soon as he translates these hieroglyphics, he goes, heads straight to Hemmitt, the same year, heads straight to Africa, Hemmitt, to excavate all of what he has found out how to read. And he goes to the temple of Seti I and the temple of Biblium el Manuk, which is the tombs of Ramesses V. The temple of Seti I is the temple of Ramesses I, built by Ramesses II when he was like 21 years old. His father dies and he goes and builds his temple. It's in Abydos, the first Holy Land. If you didn't know there was more than one Holy Land, this is in Abydos, the first Holy Land. And we have the temple of Seti I. Now, what's interesting about this temple is, I got a picture of this temple from the 19th century, which is a nice temple with columns and all of this on it. And by the time I get another temple from 1989, the temple is totally different. It's like these white boys then went in and reconstructed the temple, tore it down and built it back up. We know why they did that. Because in this, he finds out that he has in this temple, and I want to get this picture. In this temple, he finds out that there's 4 men. And it's in the first piece you have on Egypt, if you want to look at that. There's 4 men in this temple. And I got a picture of these men, if I can find it. But anyway, those 4 men are called the Nazi, which is the Southern Africa, or the West Africa. The Hemmitt, which is the Semitic. The Ruti, or the Root race, which is your East African, which is the Egyptians, or the Kemites. And then you have the TAMA-HU. Now, if you notice in that document, they don't talk about no other races. They just tell you what their names are, what they are known as, and where they're from. What type of ethnic background they're from, whatever. But the only one that they talk about in there is what? The TAMA-HU, which TAMA meaning created, HU meaning white, light, or bright. It means the created white people. Now, at the bottom of that, you'll find out that he says the Nazi and the Ruti, which is the West African, or the East African, created the TAMA-HU. Now, here we have first-hand archaeological evidence. You see, Champollion later dies, and you can get a part of this book, if you read this book, starting from chapter 3 on into chapter 10. Diop talks about it, but Diop doesn't allude to it. He just said that Champollion is very disgusted with what he finds in this tomb. It really bothers him because whatever it is, his people are known as savages. And it really bothers him. To get the book, he goes into it. This is Diop, African Origins of Civilization, Myth, or Reality. And he goes into this thing, and you can get it from chapter 3 into chapter 10. But he says that the Nazi and the Ruti, or the Root, created the TAMA-HU. Very interesting, because we're talking about basically the Africans, the black man, created this mutated, grafted white man. Now, it's interesting about Diop. Diop explains it, and he puts it in there for further study of who picks it up. But remember, he's married to the beast. So therefore, he does not go out and just all out say. He could say it. Now, we know this man is graphic enough to kill the white scholarship in the Western civilization. But yet he holds back on this pertinent piece, because if we know he's created by us, then we know that he's not human, because hue means color. We need to check the origin of these words. But so he has problems with that. So he goes and conjures up this whole other theory, the two greater theory or whatever, of the white man being mutated in the Ice Age. Well, if he's mutated in the Ice Age, that's funny, just like Gloria P. said. Now here's a black man that travels up to Europe, mutates in the Ice Age. And yet we got some people that say of a lighter hue, which is still an original people. What you said, these are the real people that adapted by climates, or the other people you see around the world, not the white man. They go up, an Indian type that's coming from the Bering Straits, from Australia one time, coming and mutating in China to what you have your Chinese type or your Asian type, coming over the Bering Straits, coming into America, populating America. This is your Indian. Another group of Asians come in, populate with them, and this is how you get your Indian people. At first it was an Australoid type people, more on your Australian type. The Australoid. Then you have another type that mutates into China, comes into America, populate with them, and this is how you get this whole American Indian, indigenous American, because Indian is for India. We all understand that. But here's the people that's an indigenous American, goes up into Alaska and makes a culture and ain't mutated yet in Alaska. And here's some people that don't mutate in the ice or whatever you want in Alaska, but yet we got a blue-black African who did live all around the world. We got a blue-black crusty African. Blue-black. Gods at the time, because all pineal glands is open, we'll get into that. Gods at the time go up into Europe and can't take the ice and mutate. But yet we have this person in Alaska that not only makes a culture out of it. Not only does he live in the ice, he makes a culture. You understand? But yet we have the black African, who is the personification of culture. Go up in the Ice Age and we come out with this beast. It don't go that way. The world don't go that way. You see, that's what we're going to prove here today. But anyway, he had to conjure up this because, number one, he's trained by the white man. He's in the white man schools, because we understand all the schools in Africa, the chancellors and all of the system that they're under are either under French system or under the British system or under some type of Islamic system, white Arab system. So therefore, if they write some stuff that's going to pass to be printed in books, that's going to be passed as scholarship, and all the time when they do this, they got to work this stuff in so it's pleasable to the white man. But we know this is not to be the case, because he knew in his TAMA-HU story, he knew enough about this. And even in the end of the chapters, you just got to have to study this book, because I can't point out where it is. In the chapters, he says that he has read Champollion's, I think it's 13 letters he writes back to Champollion, his elder brother, before he dies, explaining all of this stuff about this mutation of a man he's known, and obviously they explained in the temples what this person really was, and he was very upset about it. Diop reads these so-called, they call them the bas reliefs of Biblium El Maluk and Temple of Seti I. He reads these things, and that means that he knows everything there is to know about this stuff. Because it's funny, because in another part, we have them, Libya. Libya, at an early age, if you trace the culture, it's only populated by the so-called TAMA-HU. I said, now that's strange. That means that it was populated by the TAMA-HU at an early culture, but yet the white man mutates up here and is in barbarism, but he has enough sense to come down in his barbaric state and take over some black people. It don't make no sense. Then we understand that we have in Hemmitt, with Menes, or normal as some people say, goes in and he has to liberate upper and lower Hemmitt from a barbarian, mainly these TAMA-HU. You see, it's a lot of holes that's missing in the history, and a lot of people are confused about this stuff. You see, did the white man come and see? Was the white man in the caves, caves and hills of Europe as a barbarian? then what is this man doing down here? Fighting. Now you have the if you can get the papyrus, you can get it out of the book, Ewald H. Budge's book, From Fetish to God in Ancient Egypt. Budge's book, awesome piece of work. All black people should have that if you want to know some stuff about Egyptian mythology, as well as the massive stuff. It's only $9. You can get it at the Sphinx, or you can order it. In that book, that papyrus, there was I think it's called the contention